Welcome to part 1 of the truth about vaccines. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you'll know when I release part 2. In part 2, I will get into the controversy of vaccines. I'll talk about autism as it relates to vaccinations, and I'll discuss the side effects of vaccinations. As a physician, most of my patients do get vaccines, and they get vaccines for their children. But I do have some patients who boldly announce that they do not want vaccines, they are not getting vaccines, and they do not get vaccines for their children. Today, I'm going to talk about why. Why is that? Why is there so much controversy over vaccines? Much of the controversy over vaccines is due to the fear of what vaccines might cause. But why isn't there a greater fear of the debilitating and potentially fatal diseases which vaccines definitely prevent? Well, why aren't people afraid of the boogeymen? Because they've never seen them. Same thing. For a lot of the diseases which vaccines have prevented, and in some cases completely eradicated, well, many of us, especially in developed countries, have never seen these diseases. And so it's difficult to fear what you don't see. But let's talk about some of the diseases that vaccines do prevent or have eradicated. Smallpox. Smallpox was a devastating infection which killed almost 80% of the children it infected. And in the 1950s, over 50 million people were infected with smallpox each year. Well, thanks to vaccines, smallpox has now been eradicated. You don't see it anymore. And then you have measles. According to the Journal of Pathology, measles killed 7 to 8 million children each year. And this was prior to the measles vaccine. We don't see deaths like that anymore. And let's not forget about polio. Polio is the infection which paralyzed President FDR. And in the 1940s and 1950s, it either paralyzed or killed over 500,000 people worldwide each year. This was prior to the polio vaccination. Now, you don't see polio at all in developed countries. So though there may be controversy about vaccines, the one thing that is not controversial is that vaccines do prevent infections and they do prevent deaths. So let's talk. Let's talk the truth about vaccines. First off, how do vaccines work? Well, they work with your immune system. So your immune system is the system that protects your body against infection. It's like your army of soldiers. Every day, there are viruses, bacteria, and other potential infections which try to invade your body. They try to attack you, but your immune system protects you. Your immune system consists of white blood cells and other components which act like your soldiers. So let's use a virus as an example. When a virus tries to attack your body, you have a first line of defense, your innate immune system. White blood cells called phagocytes attack the virus. They attack anything. They don't have to have ever seen it before. All they have to know is that it doesn't belong. And these phagocytes just jump out there and they are attacking back on sight. So when a virus tries to attack your body, these phagocytes go attack it, engulf it, eat it, just like Pac-Man. They go and they do this indiscriminately. As these phagocytes attack the viruses, they go back and they gather up the other soldiers, the other white blood cells, the T cells, the B cells, and they show these other white blood cells a part of the virus so that they can begin to recognize. So now these other white blood cells, the T cells, the B cells, are like the other soldiers, and now they are able to armor up. They're able to get whatever kind of defense or weapons they need to fight the virus specifically. You have different type of T cell soldiers that attack, and then you have the B cells. And the B cells produce antibody. You've heard of antibodies. What these antibodies do is attach themselves to the viruses or to the attackers of your body. And then it's a setup. They set the viruses up to be destroyed by other soldiers, other white blood cells, other parts of the immune system. It's a beautiful defense, your body's army, the immune system. You have the innate immune system, which attacks invaders indiscriminately. And then you have the B cells, the T cells, which become more specific, or they are an adaptive immunity or acquired immunity, meaning that they develop immunity to specific viruses. They recognize them. As your body's soldiers are in this war fighting, you may experience fever or swelling or sneezing or coughing. And all of these things let you know that your immune system is working. It's a great defense. The problem is that it often takes days or even a week for your body to mount this response. So what happens? If you're a person who is immunocompromised or you have a weak immune system, or if the viruses have just gotten a jump start on you and they've invaded and attacked too much, sometimes you may lose the battle and get either extremely ill or you may not even make it. You could die. In the cases when you get over an infection, when you win, once your body's soldiers, all of the white blood cells, the antibodies, the cytokines, once they have won the good fight, then they can relax a little bit. But in your immune system, you develop memory cells. Now, the memory cells are kind of some petty soldiers. They're petty. because they don't forgive and they don't forget. Your memory cells, after you've been exposed to a specific virus, may lay dormant, but if that virus ever tries to invade your body again, the memory cells are ready and your body is able to mount a response very quickly. So quickly that if you are exposed to the same virus a second time, you may not even get sick. You may not even know that you've been exposed because now those memory cells and that acquired immunity have protected you quickly. So what does all of this have to do with vaccines? Well, what vaccines do is they provide somewhat of a shortcut. They get your body to the point where it's able to mount an immune response and you're able to have antibodies and memory cells. But the vaccines do it in such a way that you don't actually have to get sick. How so? What the vaccines do is they present a cousin of a virus, for example. So in a vaccine, your body is introduced to a virus, but it may be a dead virus, or it may be a very weakened virus, even if it's alive. So it's just enough to get your body's soldiers revved up and ready to defend, but it's not enough to make you very sick. Therefore, it's something like a test run. When you get a vaccination, you don't get sick, or you certainly don't get very sick. But if you ever actually get presented with the actual virus, the real thing, well, you already have your memory cells and you're able to make antibodies and you're able to protect yourself without ever getting very sick and certainly without having the same potentially fatal complications. So a vaccine allows you to develop immunity without all of the risks of getting actually ill from the real infection. Now let's talk briefly about the history of vaccines. Edward Jenner is credited for creating the first vaccine in 1796. The vaccine was to smallpox, that same devastating disease which killed pharaohs, devastated whole communities, whole empires, and even killed 5 kings. Smallpox, among other things, would cause very large blisters on its victims, and it would leave disfiguring pockmarks. Well, there was a similar illness in cows called cowpox. Now, cowpox would cause blisters, but the disease was not devastating and it did not kill. Edward Jenner noted that milkmaids who were exposed to cowpox from the cows they milked would get blisters on their hands, blisters on their arms, but then they would never, ever get smallpox. So what he did was he took the materials from cowpox and he inoculated, or he put them in his gardener's 8-year-old son, and then he allowed the gardener's son to get sick. After the gardener's son healed from the cowpox infection, Edward Jenner then introduced him to smallpox. He literally put smallpox in this child's body. And guess what? The child did not get sick. So Edward Jenner realized that if he were to give you a smaller or a less virulent form of an infection, it could allow you to build an immunity so that you would never get the more frightening or potentially fatal infection. Hence the first vaccination to smallpox. Edward Jenner is credited with developing the first vaccine, but actually the concept was already developed as early as 1022 AD. In China and in India, there were procedures called insufflation and variolation. With insufflation, healers would actually get scabs from smallpox lesions, grind them up, create a type of a powder, and then they would blow that powder into the nostrils of people who had not been infected by smallpox, and in many cases, those people would not develop smallpox. They would become immune. With variolation, it's a similar concept. Healers would get scabs or pus material from smallpox lesions, allow them to somehow become less virulent or less infectious, and then they would take the skin of people who had not been infected with smallpox, cut that skin, put the smallpox, the weaker smallpox material in those lesions, and then those people too would become immune to smallpox. Of course, there was always a chance that those people would actually get smallpox as well, but the chances of them getting smallpox was much less from the variolation procedure than it was from actually being exposed to smallpox directly. Now back to more modern day vaccines. You have different types. You have the live or attenuated vaccines, where a live but weakened virus or bacterium is injected into a patient, such as the MMR or measles, mumps, and rubella, and also the chickenpox vaccine. These are live. Then you have inactivated or dead vaccinations, such as pertussis or whooping cough. There's also toxoid vaccinations, where you have a substance or a poison from a certain pathogen, which is injected. And now we have some new technology, such as messenger RNA vaccinations, which are being studied in the production of COVID-19 or coronavirus vaccines.